All right, y'all, we're recording. Um, so I listened to both of the podcasts today, and I don't know. I loved a lot of what both of them said. I guess I really had not thought a lot about a difference between leading across or leading down. Um, but one of the things that he talked about at the beginning of, or I guess more towards the beginning of the leading across podcast was about no, I guess I wrote down know the calling. Like he talked about folks who lead across know it's their moment to lead, and that essentially that they're born to do it and finding purpose and significance in the day to day. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling with that right now. Like I genuinely believe that I was called to do this, but there are days that I am struggling
Right.
to find the purpose and the significance in this like monotony.
Absolutely.
In between making all the phone calls for COVID, yes, it's very difficult. It's hard to see the purpose. The purpose is for the kids, and now we're like turned into health department. Like
Yes.
we spend all day tracking cases and positives and putting them in spreadsheets and making phone calls about close contacts, and I feel like I'm losing my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even and
I agree. Yes.
going back to the COVID piece, the nurse comes yesterday. She had a situation where it was basically saying that she's having to triage due to the COVID things going on and your regular students going on. And she's like, I am getting overwhelmed and I need some assistance. And I just want really, I don't know if she wanted a vent moment. I couldn't tell in that moment, but I didn't have the answer for her, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a kid over here with 4 and 5 other separate tasks. I was on my way to the district office to do a presentation. It was my mind that moment was like just frozen, and I didn't have an answer for her. So that kind of sometimes make you feel like, man, you know, what am I doing?
What am I doing
Absolutely.
here? This is not what I
Absolutely.
originally thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
That
Absolutely.
the first video, the one I got from it with regard to like how it connects to the PLC group, the leading across, Courtney, which is like same thing you said, it was an interesting concept, was like that we're all on the same team and that you have to kind of
Right.
get caught up in the hierarchy. And that's super important for the PLC because I'm leading the PLC, but I don't want
Mhm.
them to look at me like they're boss. You know what I mean? Like I want us to be like a collaborative team. And so I try to work really hard to make sure that, we're working like that. We're working on like an even level, cooperative, situation. I don't know. But I felt like those guys, like the video, the podcast started off strong and then it kind of devolved into like self-aggrandizement a little bit, like when they how like they're going to meet the president of Guatemala and all that. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. But I felt like the podcast started off really strong with that message anyway.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you, Gwen, 100%. I think that was a great message with, trying to make sure that, you're kind of not looking at yourself as above, just making sure that you're listening, and leading in that way. But yeah, I kind of agree with the way it is, with the way it
It's like easy, guys.
is.
But I do like that they actually take time to talk about that because as a leader, sometimes it's hard. I have a hard time finding my like what role am I in right now, and
Mhm.
what's the best role to be in now for this project? Because there are times where it works well when you're giving everybody a voice, and then there are times where you really have to step out in front and lead it. And
Mm-hmm.
I recently we had our first session with Leadership Georgia this past week and last weekend, and they had an assessment, the what is it? Emergent genetics assessment, which helps you identify people's weaknesses and their strengths to help them work together effectively more effectively. And so all that to say is, it's almost like I was thinking, like, man, I feel like every school needs this to help them build efficient leadership teams, and even as a leader, to know kind of when to pull in, pull out, when to throw out, giving people more opportunities to lead on certain situations. But again, just having that conversation is, I like that they pull out that conversation. Well, both podcasts,
Mhm.
with leading across, I just never really dove into that before. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
I
kinda.
think it
Go
was
ahead,
right.
Kia.
No, I was just gonna say
Go ahead, Kia.
I think it's great information, and it kind of helps you think, especially in times like this when, like you said, everything else is kind of going out the window. Like we're spending our days, calling for COVID and just trying to fix kids who have been in school for 2 years and just all kind of things. It's like those are just really good points to have when you just sit at your desk and want to beat your head against the wall. Like, why am I even doing this? So
Mhm.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think too, like something that you said, Michael, kind of stayed with me is that we really haven't done PLCs at our school, and that I mean, we have common course teams, but they weren't alike. We have common core teams, but we don't have common planning. So when they have had conversations to collab, it's really been in the hallways or before and after school. And so this is the
Mhm.
first year that we've really mandated that they set meeting times that admin are popping into. And so one thing I really do appreciate about this project, and I think kind of the timing of it, is that so much of my time is consumed in this office, and I'm needing to be out in the building with
Mhm.
teachers and kids. So this is really going to force that. But it also, like, we're in a place that, like, our scores are not great. Like, they need some direction. Like, we're in a place that, like, y'all collaborate and bouncing ideas back and forth. Like, we're beyond that right now. Like, you're about to have some direction, and this is where we're going. And so one of the things I try to do, our department chair is not in our American Lit Common Course team this time, or our PLC this time, because she is not teaching the course this semester but taught it last semester, which is kind of nice because it's
Mhm.
going to force somebody that's not a designated leader to
To
step
Mhm.
rise
up.
up.
And so
Mhm.
I'm hoping that one of our teachers that really needs a good push, like she's good and she's sweet, but she needs some coaching. I kind of just delegated her to be the lead on the team. And I was a little iffy about that because I thought, man, it's not blow up my face. But she called my cell phone today in the middle of the day and was so excited to take on this role of like scheduling meetings for them, and here's what I'm going to do with this new strategy. And I mean, and I thought, man, all she needed was like this much of a window to like have an opportunity to put her voice in, and it just, I don't know, that kind of coincided right what I was listening to on the podcast this afternoon. But she just needed a little bit of I think, a confidence boost to say, I trust in you. Like, you can do this, even if
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
anything other than organizing meeting times and like getting your people on a calendar together. It was enough to get her bought in, I think.
Well, isn't that like that was a lot of podcast number 2, was like
Mm-hmm.
developing your people, and like, seeing everybody as a 10, and then
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
them like opportunities to be a 10, or like like it said, lead the individual, like, you know what I mean?
mhm.
It's your job as a leader to like grow other leaders. So I
I
think that's,
Yes.
Courtney, exactly what you're saying was like exactly what they were talking about in the second podcast.
which I feel like the second podcast really kind of had this message of, you know, kind of shift the culture or the view away from the traditional view of how we look at leadership.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
like, I like how they brought out that one scenario about how John was in a restaurant somewhere. I think they talked about it at the beginning. And one of his employees for his company or at the office that he never goes to saw him and was like, "Hey, I just started working for you at the work." He was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't work for me."
All right. Yep.
He's like,
Mm-hmm.
"You don't work for
Work with
me."
We
me.
work together.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I can't remember though. what's the other part of that? I work for you, or was I imagining that?
He said,
I mean,
you don't work for me, you work with me.
You
And
work with
then their
okay,
point
yes.
after that, yeah, was you work for the people in your building. So
right.
That's
yeah, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was that way.
sometimes it's hard to move that mindset. I feels at times, and it could be a generational thing for those that did grow up more in the era of a top down type thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but it's so important because when I walk around or in different, um, I don't know, just different interaction with the staff, you see different gifts and talents that they do have, and it's like, how do I pull that out of you, and get you
Yes.
to, try to
Mm-hmm.
move you forward, you know. Um, so I like that he brought that out.
Yeah. And
Our
you,
principal this year is brand new to the principalship, and when he essentially like he was an AP for us last year in the last several years, and then he moved into the principal's role. And
Mhm.
for his first leadership meeting that he met with a leadership team, I love what he said because he told them, he said, "I am a leader in this building. I'm not the leader." And
Mhm.
you could just see all of their heads go, huh, like that's a thought. And he was like, you're a leader, you're a leader, you're a leader, you're a leader. Like, I'm not the leader, I'm just a leader in the building. And so I think that really did set the tone for that our leadership team to have feel like they had a voice in whatever processes that he was going to put in place.
yeah, and I like the way he kind of phrased, like he said that you flip it over, like instead of being like a top down, you
Yeah,
flip it over, and he phrased it as like you are serving up, like you're serving, you're going in an upward direction, trying to serve your
yeah.
staff, serving. I thought that was kind of an interesting way to put it, and I also like when he said like you have to believe, like put a 10 on everyone's head
Hmm.
because somebody thought you were a 10 and that's why you're in this position. You need to believe everybody is a 10. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And treat them as such, that you believe in them. And I thought that was kind of a cool message too.
And I think that helps them do their job. I forget how he phrased it, but it's basically like by you letting them know, like, I believe in you in some kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
helps them do their job a little bit more with, um, I guess, just really into it, feel
Yeah, and it's
confident about it.
yeah, and it's like what you said earlier. Everybody's good at something,
Mm-hmm.
so
Hmm.
you just have to find what that something is and pull it out of them.
Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
at the school I'm at now, I kind of see that already going into the spring. Like we do from academics to sports to, of course, you just have all these different programs in school, and I do get to see teachers in that light. Like we're getting ready to do a thing called Olympics at our school, and that's when we take like 7 countries, and it's in the spring, and we divide the entire school up amongst those countries, and we get the kids have events for a solid week. And the lady that heads that up, in daytime she's a math teacher, and but she's also on the side has a passion for athletics, and she really takes it to heart. She gets it all organized. And in my mind, I'm like, that's a huge project, because it's every day is something different. There's a academic bowl piece to it. There's a reading bowl piece to it. Then all of the sporting events, and again, just seeing that, man, she actually has those skills to organize at a bigger level outside her classroom for the entire school and work with different teachers, etc. So, giving those teachers the opportunity as well, to work and flourish in those, in the building, and at the same, and the administrators step back, and just there's a supporting role,
Mm-hmm.
So again, that goes back to that leading down type thing, um, model that leadership for them to do the same because we set the culture as well, and to see
Mm-hmm.
that to see that culture kind of reflected back in the work that they do, kind of makes you feel good and also helps them, again, kind of just exercise their gift, especially in those leadership roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. Let's see. What were we supposed to answer? Okay. What is something you can use from the info discussed?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot. Definitely the points about the whole, like you talked about leading up when not looking at yourself as just, I'm the only leader in the building, but just working with the leadership team, and even not just the leadership team, but even all the teachers in the school. Because sometimes I think teachers feel like if they're not a part of the leadership team, then they're not a leader. But that's not always the case. There are so many leaders in their own right, and just helping everybody, like you said, to have that 10, and letting everybody know they're just as important as everybody else, and just finding whatever is good about them and helping them to, shine their light.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My
Hey.
big point of the whole thing, something that I need to use, is definitely not to let the teachers on the PLC with me get caught up in the hierarchy. Like I have to, because they're new teachers, so they were like super nervous the first time, and
Yeah.
they were like super nervous about me, like because I'm coming into their rooms to like coach a little bit, and I don't want I've been working really hard on making sure that I don't let them get caught up. I'm not caught up in the hierarchy, believe me, but
Right.
I don't want them to get caught up in it. So I'm really trying hard to make them understand that this is like a collaborative, and
Yes.
that I'm
Yes.
not evaluating them. It's not a Teaks thing. Like, it has nothing to do with
Right.
that. It's just us working as a team to improve writing. And
I'm here
and
for
that's what
you.
we're doing. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, is don't let them get caught up in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're right.
I
I
was
think,
thinking from
one of the things that they talked about, I guess we talked about last semester, was like setting norms. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to really think about how to utilize every person on the team to make sure the meetings run efficiently. And like I'm having a hard time though, like other than like, the main person to really set the meetings up, and then like your minutes and time,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I'm stuck. Like I don't want it to be so, I don't want it to feel like lit circles for adults. You know what I mean? Like I want them to feel like adults and professionals in the meeting, and not like they're kids. But I do want them to be invested.
Hmm.
mm, it's
What is your Courtney? What's the topic? Like, is it like a data PLC? Is it like a data teams PLC, or what is it?
A little. So I chose to focus on American Lit because that's what
Okay.
our CCRPI is based off of. Our school improvement plan is based off of that as well. And to be honest, it's
Okay.
the place where we could use the most growth. And then
Okay.
mhm,
looking at all of their scores and breakdowns, there is a struggle with informational reading, comprehension of informational text, and vocabulary. And
Mm-hmm.
our district initiative this year is really focused on increasing small group instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my high school teachers, that's like foreign land for them. And they'll do small groups. Like it's not that they don't use it, but they don't necessarily use data based small groups. They essentially, like, you and you go sit together in a group and read, or like there's not a lot of thought to how they group their kids. And so the first couple of meetings, we're going to sit and use their iReady data to talk about the appropriate groupings of kids. Like, who would you put together and why would you put them together? How are you
Mm-hmm.
going to create groups? And then they're going to use that iReady intervention. And then they're also going to do, one of our literacy specialists developed, or not developed, but she found a strategy called, oh gosh, now that I said it, I think it's structured word inquiry. I can't remember, but essentially it's them looking at prefixes, suffixes, and roots, and looking
Mm-hmm.
at morphology and how the different parts work together to be able to understand new
oh
words.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
so that's what they're going to use their small group instruction for every week, focused on, is really pushing out better learning vocabulary strategies with
Mhm.
their
Little word
students. And
study.
so
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
it's I don't know that the strategy in and of itself is going to have a huge impact on our student achievement scores, but I think the
Mm-hmm.
intentionality and planning will. Like, I think that the using your data to make your groups and monitoring what your groups are doing, I'm hoping is what has a better impact on their numbers and their growth. So we shall
Okay.
see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are y'all's ILA
Yeah,
plans
absolutely.
on?
I'm looking at literacy, um, literature, and I'm looking at interventions and how those interventions, whether or not they make a difference with ninth grade literature. Since there is no testing from when you get in high school, there is no test until you get to American Lit.
Mhm.
I'm going to use STAR as kind of an assessment tool, and using that, talking about assessments and assessment tools, and just really lit, just ninth grade lit,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
improving. You know, looking at grades and just data from STAR, to see if whether or not they made improvements from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester.
Mhm.
I think mine is going to be in literacy as well. Mine is going to be in looking at eight, eighth grade Georgia studies. If incorporating literacy strategies and instruction will help improve the grades. On the Georgia milestone, they're not
Mhm.
um, tested in seventh grade, obviously in history. Um, but our school focuses on literacy. Um, so we're going to try to incorporate it in social studies more so with the strategy with summarizing strategy
Mhm.
because it's a lot of information in Georgia history and the kids being able to actually articulate and explain and expound on what they're learning about, but also using like flexible grouping at the same time, so doing more performance based tasks and group work, um, partner work, and just using a lot more small grouping, etc. So using some of those strategies and see if that kind of makes a puts a dent in the data at all. But we're going to be looking at the in class data as well. So
Mhm.
um, every unit they're incorporating some kind of summarizing activity, and they have to majority of their feedback, their assessments are like going to be written versus a lot of multiple choice and matching and stuff like that. And the discussions are
Mhm.
the discussions have been so much more rich with the kids having to have been more rich with the kids having to expound on their thoughts on different things that happened in history with civil rights movement and so much going on in the country with the government and so just using all of those factors, but ultimately seeing intentionally using literacy, some form of literacy in their instruction. Um, just seeing if that helps improve their performance
Mm-hmm.
on the milestones.
That's awesome.
We're doing my ILA is overwriting, and I find that the only real measure we have is the milestone, which I
Yep.
won't have in time for the end of the PASL or the presentation. And writing is
Mhm.
hard because grading it's so subjective. So but our writing scores on the milestone are just absolutely abysmal. They're
Mhm.
abysmal, and we had to do something. Like I'm like enough. So I mean, I could have done literacy. It would have been much easier if I had just done literacy, because
Right.
we do data digs with literacy every 30 days. I mean, I just had bucket loads of stuff, and then I
Right.
thought, no, writing is the priority. I mean, when you have like 0 kids in fourth grade, 175 students last year in fourth grade, and you have 0 kids score the full 4 points for ideas, zero. Zero. We have like 28 gifted kids, not one single
Oh,
gifted
yeah.
kid
Yeah.
scored a full 4 points for ideas and development. Like, that's abysmal.
Yeah.
So that's why I just went berserk, and I was like, oh, we have to do a writing PLC. I can't take it anymore. Our writing scores come back because you look at our reading scores, And our reading scores, because everyone's like, oh, the pandemic. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
No,
Reading scores were pretty steady. Writing is off the rails.
right.
So, there's something here with our instruction. Like, it's not, you can't explain
Right.
it away with absences. You can't explain it away with pandemic. It's just bad. Our instruction is lacking. So I kind of went and I dug into that SRSD, self-regulated strategy development, which is the research-based writing instruction. And really what it is you just teach the kids some kind of mnemonic, like a lot of places use tree. We use races,
Yep.
which is like restate the question, answer the question, cite, explain your evidence, and then sum it up.
Yep.
So that's the mnemonic we use, and that's what our PLC is. We're just we have to get good at that because, think about it. The extended response, all it is 3 race paragraphs with an introduction and a conclusion.
That's it.
So if they can write a standalone constructed response, right?
Yep.
They can write the extended response. Like if you
That's
can
it.
dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So that's my slogan here.
I like it.
That's where we're going with
That's awesome. That is awesome
Yeah.
that you're
like
tackling right because a lot of people don't. That's awesome.
No, I don't. It's just so hard. It's like I said, it's really subjective. So it's a hard one to tackle. Yeah. Anyway,
y'all
so
are
that's
probably
what we're
like
doing.
I am. Like when kids will write down stuff for me, and I'll look at it, and I'm like, oh gosh, like you are gonna graduate soon. Like that. I'm not really sure what happened to you.
I bet.
I'm so glad it's
But I
everywhere,
think
not
about
just.
did y'all not do like diagramming sentences in middle school?
Yes.
Like straight up
Yes.
ELA sentence construction. And I don't know why we've gotten so far away from that.
For
Everything
some reason,
is
people
based
saying it
on
was ineffective.
I
Yeah.
did not.
Like
I'm not-
DLR, daily language review was. I mean,
Yes.
that helped me. I hated drawing the little arrows and all of remembering all the, but I mean, it was long lasting like skills that I developed over time on how to proofread. I bet the kids don't know how to proofread a paper.
No. But you know what? They think editing is just writing it neater. Like you tell them edit and revise, and they just write a neater copy and hand it in. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not.
That I still needs to be capitalized.
Yeah. But it's true. But you know what? And even in my research, when I was doing my lit review, like it's bad. Like they said, like I think it's something like 80% of corporations say that the people like they're onboarding, they can't write. Like they're like the people we're even hiring. It's a disaster. And then colleges are saying that like something like 73% of people in college need like a writing remediation course.
Oh yeah, it's getting bad.
I mean, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yes.
So,
what are you doing yours on, Courtney?
Oh, on the vocabulary. I think that's where we're gonna focus on really digging in. And
Oh yeah, that's
here's
right.
what I'm noticing. Like when I started watching our longitudinal data go, and this is kind of what you had mentioned, Michael, our US history scores and our American lit scores are literally neck and neck. Like they look the same.
Oh, okay,
and I think it's because
interesting.
they're like primary source documents are used on the milestone, and that level of text, they just cannot function. Like when you're looking at them, they can read a fiction story all day long and like connect to it and but when it comes to a dry text that's from the 1800s or whatever, they start looking at that and they're done. Like I can't approach it. I'm done with that. And so I kid you not, like our U.S. history and our American lit scores are within 3 percentage points of year every year. Like wherever American lit goes, U.S. history follows.
I heard
interesting.
I was doing a walkthrough today, and one of the history teachers, and he gave him an article. It was like over one of the speeches from like 1867 or something. But I mean, like you said, the kids don't like to read that, nor does some of them have. He literally was doing a read aloud and told them to underline as many interesting sentences or points, and they had to get in groups and share and all of that kind of stuff. But I was just looking like, man, you got a history teacher in here intentionally doing a read aloud
Right.
to help the kids better, comprehend. But at the same time, they have to show their level of comprehension by underlining, important points that stood out to them, and then expound on them. And those are eighth graders.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
that's pretty cool.
Well, but yeah, Courtney, what you're saying, I
That is
don't think
cool.
they understand the language. Like when you're looking at primary source documents, they're in old timey language. So
Yeah.
you're right with the vocabulary. They don't understand those vocabulary words and that kind of language.
Have you guys ever heard of the click and clunk strategy?
No.
So
Mm-mm.
when you're reading, those kind of passages, and you come across a word you don't know, they call it a clunk,
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to write it down. And I think the click portion is when you do this in small groups, so it's done collaboratively, and someone else at the group, I think, at some point you're supposed to review those clunk words at the end of the reading, to kind of help build that vocabulary, as well as kind of help. Yeah, really, I think it focuses on vocabulary. When I left the class, that's what we were kind of moving into, to kind of help address some literacy issues going on there. But it's called click and clunk strategy. So with that, with coming into if you want to like incorporate more, I guess, small group or flexible grouping, but also help build vocabulary and etc. That's a good way to do it. The kids didn't like it. I think they
love
didn't like
that.
the roles that come with it. But it was.
I've
I
heard
was.
of it, but I never knew what it was. That sounds really
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah,
It was
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
definitely practical. Yeah, it's from the Irish Center. They actually they're big in literacy strategy.
That's awesome.
But
I'll have to
anyway,
bring that one up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions we're supposed to answer?
All right.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Well,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
did we?
I think it was
Yeah, I
like,
think so.
how do they connect to your PLC? We talked about how they relate to our educational experience. We all talked about how, our thoughts about the podcast, and then something we can use. What's something we can use from the info?
Yeah.
Click and cluck. Let's go in my PLC meeting next week.
There it
So we
is.
have that right now.
I'm going. Yes. All right.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Well, I hope
and
everybody has
hopefully-
a good, yeah,
Courtney, are you good with posting this?
good rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good luck on everybody's ILAs and
Ooh, yeah.
the school year.
Have y'all finished
Oh,
any
yeah.
of your entries yet?
No.
No.
No, I do have a timeline though. Set 100
Yeah.
days was from Sunday that we had to finish this. So, we're at 90 something now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our group is trying
Thanks for the
really hard to
reminder,
finish
Michael.
before spring break. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll see. We're
Yeah,
trying to get
that's
done
a
before
good
spring
goal.
break, but who knows?
Yeah.
My goal is to get done with 1.1. I did the contextual information yesterday. I want to get done with 1.1 and at least part 1 of 1.2 this weekend, because I'm going to proofread everything later. Like I'm just going to pull the information in from all the assignments that we've done already first and just drop them into my boxes. And then I will tweak and refine once I get everything loaded.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. And that was what I was thinking. If I just get everything in there at least by spring break, then I can like proofread over spring break and be done with it,
That's right.
Yeah.
or something like that. But
Yeah.
I meant to start, but I just didn't yet. So.
All right, Courtney, are you able to post the
I will.
today's
Yep. I'll
feed?
do it right now. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Excellent.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Have a good
All
night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.